Hello, my beloved soul-seeking You-est listeners. This is Julie. I am here as your host of the You-est podcast, and you are in for such a special treat today. You are joined with me. So we are in a live studio interactive audience. I have the amazing Jon Berghoff. For many of you, you've had the pleasure of hearing him being interviewed before. Today, you're going to get to know him really well and get to really get a pulse on what's going on with our participants, given what's happening in the world right now. We're really taking a pulse check on how we are evolving. I don't want to give it all away, but we are going to be digging in deep how we are deciding and choosing to evolve individually, collectively. Jon is masterful at this. He's created the XChange methodology, which is all about learning how to access your inner wisdom and the wisdom of the collective, of groups, of teams, companies, and families. And you're going to see real time how to do that. So, all right, Jon, why don't you just take it away and share what the heck we're doing? Because this is going to be a different one for our listeners.
Yeah, super happy to. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. And thank you, by the way. You're like, I have to say, Jon is a mentor for me, a dear friend, a change agent, and pretty funny, usually.
When I try hard enough, it works.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Julie, super happy to be here. Super looking forward to this. And yeah, it's kind of cool to talk about what's actually happening right now on this Zoom platform. So as you said, we are hosting we don't even know what to call this, right? Because we just started
Sacred Exchange.
Well, a sacred exchange. You're right. And so what that is a couple minutes ago, there were about 15 or 20 members of your community who just, less than a day ago or so, we invited them. Hey, if any of you could make it, you could be here live. And they're having a conversation right now. And I know you and I will talk a lot about this, but one of the reasons we wanted to move them into small groups, they're all in groups of 3 or 4 people. And they're having a conversation based on a question, and I'll share the question. The question is, what is it? Actually, I'm going to go to the chat box because I like how you recapped it earlier. So I'm going to read this. What is it that is evolving within yourself right now? What are you learning about yourself in the face of this crisis? So we'll talk a little bit when they come back around why that question was chosen. But they're all having a small group conversation sparked by that question or those questions. And what we're going to talk about today, maybe not, we might go somewhere else with it, is why is it that in this crisis that the whole world has been thrown into, that choosing or designing the right questions and then creating the spaces for people to move into these intimate, important, meaningful conversations, why is it that is needed right now? And we could argue it's always been needed, but why is it needed now even more so than it was needed, 2 weeks ago? So we'll talk a lot about that. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast afterwards, I'm just going to give you a heads up. Julie and I are attempting here to have a meaningful conversation and at the same time moderate 20 people and all the technology moving in and out of different groups. So you're just going to hear live us dealing with that. We're going to make no effort to pretend that all of this is seamless. But in part because we want to actually model something that any of you either watching or listening later on could be doing with your communities or inside of your organizations. And Julie, I don't want to forget, but at some point on this call, I'm going to give out a private contact address so that any of your listeners can talk to any one of our 8 faculty members at XChange who have generously put aside time over the next days and week to help anybody who wants to learn how, private one-on-one conversations, to learn how to actually apply this method. We also have webinars where we're teaching it left and right for free. So before we're all done, we'll tell people how to go get that. But that's kind of what's going on right now. And Julie, I'm looking forward to talking about what's going on in the world and what that world might be asking of us. Not that I know, but I just have guesses. So that's it.
Awesome. No, I'm so excited to have you. And I think, this idea of asking these right questions, how this can actually be something that can change the course of how we're evolving as a human species. It's so powerful. Often we think of what moves the needle are, medicine and different kinds of practices and ways of, looking at tactics to change for change. And I think looking at questions as that key driver to really create systemic change, I know we're going to talk about that, is to me just very powerful and so needed right now. And so we're going to give people a taste of that here.
Yeah, I love that. And they're all going to be back in about a minute. I just sent them a note. And yeah, we at XChange, we've always been driven by a transcendent question, which is what allows any human system, a group of people, to be at their best. And that question's always been meaningful and important to us. And the level of meaning that question has been raised in the last week or two, it's been fascinating because as I know we'll talk about this, but in the face of a crisis, there's a lot of things that can happen and that we could do and questions we could ask. And I think at the end of the day, our questions are so important because the future changes before the answer arrives.
Yeah.
It's like a lens. If I put a pair of glasses in front of me, before I even open my eyes, that lens changes what I see, how well I see. Our questions do the same thing. So we got to ask great questions right now, and I'm sure we'll talk about those.
Yeah. It reminds me, and I'm excited that we're going to also get into the spiritual realm as well. And amazing quotes. I don't know who said this, but it was a scientist who said, we live in a participatory universe. So by the mere question we're asking, like you just said, things shift the minute we start to go into that new question. So I know we'll go into that as well.
Yeah, it's instant. All right. They've got about a minute left. So however you and I want to buy time for one more minute as they come back into this room. Again, if you're listening to this on audio, you're listening to Julie and I talk through our own conversation, but we're also managing, in this case, 6 separate breakout conversations that are happening amongst a live Zoom audience. They'll all be coming back and we're going to hear from them. We're going to ask them what emerged during their conversations in just a second here. Yeah. So it'll be cool.
One thing I love about this, and I think if you've been using Zoom and now taking these powerful questions we're asking, it's like upping the connection, the ability to connect from afar. And I know you've been seeing that. You've been leading all kinds of meetings. I've been facilitating and leading groups that are coming together in ways that we would have maybe not have thought possible or could have imagined 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's really surprising. It's been surprising for us how intimate, how vulnerable, and how real we can be even with this screen. It's this, like, for us, I had to find a new religion overnight, because a week ago it was like, nope, you got to be in person with somebody. And well, let's let it prove itself out. Here they are. Yay. We've got about 20 smiling faces looking at us. So here's what we're going to do. All of you that just came back from your conversations, you just explored in your dialogues. What are you learning? How are you evolving? And we'd love to hear from maybe 2, 3, 4 of you. If you can, just go ahead and unmute yourselves, and I can try and call on you if we do that. But however you want to do this. Anyone want to go first? Anyone wants to go first? Just love to hear what emerged. What were some themes? What was interesting? What was inspiring from your conversations? So Marnie, yeah? Marnie, I just unmuted you. Oh, sorry. I just unmuted you. No, I didn't. I'll come to somebody else. We'll come back to Marnie.
I did.
Oh, there you go. Go for it.
There we go. So I think I knew this about myself already, but it's just painfully aware that I really work well in emergent situations. A couple people on this phone call, namely beautiful Brianna, has known for a long time I've been really resisting getting online for, I don't know, whatever reason. I kind of feel like, Jon, I just overheard you as I was getting back online, that I'm really committed to being in person with people. It really, I don't know, breathing the same air just feels so right to me. Mm-hmm. And right now there's no choice. There's no time for doubt. There is no time for fear. I'm between a rock and a hard place. It's time to rise to the occasion, whether it's comfortable for me or not. And so that's the first part I noticed. The second part I noticed is that, here I'm this yoga practitioner, and this idea of taking retreat, that right now, I don't know how else to say it. It's like it's Christmas Day. Everybody's on Christmas vacation. We're all retreating into our homes. We all while some of us, I mean, I feel like I'm working even harder right now because I have like this learning curve, even though I feel so blessed to have been with you, Jon, and you, Julie, and you, Laura, and like trying to learn all this, you know, Zoom stuff that I've just never been comfortable with. I'm really learning how to do that. But everybody else is in the same boat. So I don't feel like I'm missing out, that FOMO, fear of missing out thing. It's like we're all in the same boat. We're all in it together. Here we go. We're all reinventing ourselves. Yay.
Awesome, Marnie. Thank you for sharing that. Super great to hear. Who'd like to go next? Who'd like
I
to go
will.
next? Blair, please.
So first of all, I just like to say this is such an awesome experience that we're able to do this with technology. I'll be doing this in a mastermind with Colleen Rippey on Thursday, and it's just the fact that we can even break out into different rooms is just so amazing. But I was blessed to be in a group with Anna and Heather. Anna's in Milan right now, and Heather is a scientist on the East Coast. And the main theme that really stood out is that we are all in this together, and we are all feeling the same things. And Anna in Milan, you know, she had gone through this, you know, a couple weeks earlier than we had, but there was a sense of, you know, denial at first, underestimated it, but then it became more of a calm and prudent behavior. You know, over here, Heather is saying we have good days and bad days, and sometimes we're more fearful, sometimes we can conquer the day, and it really proved that no matter where we are, whether we're, you know, a scientist in America or, you know, in the thick of it right now in Milan, we are one. We are all feeling the same feelings and emotions, and it's just really powerful to be able to share this collective feeling with everyone.
Blair, really well said. Thank you for sharing that. That's really awesome. Love to hear from maybe one or two more. Brianna, please, and then we'll come to Pretty. Awesome.
Hi, guys. What came up for me was how committed I am to things that I would normally pass up, and how deep I am of a nurturer to those that I love and care about, those that often don't have someone to show up for them. I am over and over again seeing myself being that person showing up. And the thing that really stood out to me, I wrote it down and I underlined it twice. I am made for this. And that has come up in many, many different ways over the last maybe 10 or so days. And as a group, what we found was really interesting was that there was this collective resilience. Everybody had a story of resilience. Everybody had some kind of story of self-awareness. There was this idea that we have developed a foundation of skills individually and you know, collectively, that in our communities, instead of reacting, we are acting from a bold, courageous place. And we're also being incredibly curious instead of critical. And we are 10xing the inherent skills that we already had, that we were already delivering to the world in a creative way. And so all of those things have emerged, and thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share them.
Brianna, so well said. So inspiring. So inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. Pretty, go ahead.
Awesome. So we had a couple of themes that were common amongst the group that I was in. And the first one was seeing our time together with the family as a blessing and everything that's been coming out of that. A couple of them are like planning on doing family game time through Zoom, which I thought was amazing, an idea like that. And then also finding comfort and healing through nature and appreciation of nature and noticing that. So that was a common thread that was amongst us all in our group.
So awesome. Jon might have frozen, so we'll like, he's still writing. Beautiful,
Yeah.
Pretty. That was beautiful. Who else would like to share? Yeah, Jenna.
Yeah, so Julie, thank you for inviting me to this group. This is amazing to get a double dose today. And one theme that was really beautiful that came up in our group, and Monica and I'm just bad with names here, so here we go. Let's see, Samantha. So we were in a group together, and a theme that was coming up is the space for the divine feminine to come through at this time, and how there's a gift in all the shutting down, everything that's going on right now. A lot of us have been just really waiting for a time where I remember Monica mentioning that she was sort of preparing for this, like, when is this happening? And here we are, and it's like there's this opportunity to create a whole nother way of doing life. And I think feeling that in these collective conversations is really inspiring to me, that it's not just something that's kind of bubbling up in me and the folks I know locally here, but it's like all over the country, all over the globe. There are people that are like ready for this. And so, just honoring the divine feminine at this time, and that receptivity and time to go inward, and time for something else new to emerge, a new kind of like the great rebirth. I've got a song called The Great Rebirth, and it just reminds me of this. It's like, we're ready, we're ready for a new kind of consciousness. We're ready for a new way of doing life. And yeah.
So awesome. I love what you said, Jenna, and the whole presence of really tapping into that divine feminine, and kind of really in some ways, some have no choice in a way. We're just being ushered into that space of being present to that. Beautiful, really beautiful. Anyone else? Jon, I think, is back with us. I see there he is.
The internet at our office seemed to go completely south. We'll see if it comes back up, but I can join on the phone. We'll be fine.
You're awesome. Awesome. You're back as the host. We're hosting together. It's all good. You got frozen for a minute taking notes. I'm like, that's a lot of notes you're taking. Just a lot of notes on that one. Okay. Moving on. Yeah. Who else would like to share? What else did you notice? Take from that experience. Sam. Hi.
Hi. Okay. Same thing as everyone else. Julie, this is amazing, amazing, amazing. And Jon, if it's you, I love my Vitamix. I don't know if you're the same one, but I use that every single day. I love my Vitamix. What for me, what I am starting to notice is I've done so much spiritual work and a lot of inner work, and I've gone through several rebirthing processes. And what I'm learning right now, and what's really coming up for me, is my humanness. And not just so much just how life is fragile, but what it means to be human. And with so much, where we are, groceries are very limited. So fresh produce is very difficult to get through. And it just, I guess what I'm getting at is it makes me realize how special certain things are that are very unique to the human experience. And I think that with us going within and being around people that we love and having this safe space, it reminds us of just how human we are. And again, like to tag on to what everyone else said, I remember there was this meme, and it was these kids with all these like really bad haircuts, because salons are closed. And so it's just, parents having to cut their own kids' hair. And it made me laugh. It made me laugh so hard. But then at the same time, it was just like, oh my gosh, like this is something that we are all experiencing across the board. Like it's no longer, oh, well, this is in Italy, so we're safe because it's over there. This is something that is touching every single human being, because, and at least, and not to sound ignorant, I don't really know as much of how the rest of the world is handling it. It's just pretty much from the people that I talk to, but this isolation period, it's all of us. It's swept through our entire nation, our entire family. And it just reminds me how human we all are. First, I know we're spirit, we're spirits having a human experience. And I think that this is giving us that chance to have the human experience and really grab hold of what it means to be human. That yes, we can, still be spiritual, but then also not to take for granted, because I think about, I have a friend who has two elderly parents. And one thing that she's, their health is not good at all. And so she just has this fear, like, what if I can't hug or kiss my mom again? Like, what if she passes during this? And it's just that, how not to take an embrace for granted ever again. And being able to hear somebody's voice, just like different things like that is that's where I'm going with all of this. So it also is opening my heart tremendously, because it's just pouring into, like I said, the humanness. And that's different for me, because I usually spend my time, in the spiritual realms and in places where I focus on the soul, or I focus on the spirit, rather than focusing on being human. And that's what's been coming up for me lately.
That's awesome. Samantha, thanks for sharing that. Well, Julie, hey, to all of you, here's an interesting question. And you're welcome to just unmute yourselves on your own, if you could. Be ready for this. In one word, just one word, can you express how you felt having that experience of those small group conversations, or even just how you feel right now in reflecting from those? Just one word. Brett, go ahead.
Connected.
Awesome. Bree, go ahead.
Rejuvenated.
Awesome. Gina, I got you unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you. Blessed.
Blessed. Awesome. Jenna, I got you. Go. Oh, wait, hold on. Little delay there. That didn't work. All right. Cindy, go ahead.
I felt connected as well. Connected.
Awesome. Vani, how about yourself?
Same, that was my word, connected.
Heather, how about yourself?
Mine was blessed, like Gina.
Awesome. Blair?
Grateful.
Grateful. Amanda, go ahead.
Seen.
Seen. Awesome. Anna from Milan?
Thank you. Stronger.
Stronger. Nice. Very cool. All right, we'll leave it at that because there's more of you here. But I just would encourage all of you to reflect on, and if you're listening to this afterwards, to realize that even when we're being literally forced to isolate, that we can still feel connected. We can still find ways of experiencing that sense of belonging and having meaningful interactions. So, Julie, I'm excited for this conversation to go wherever it goes. I had something I wanted to read. Could I read this?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a quote from Rose von Thotterbrand, and she's an organizer of an integrative learning center for the study of indigenous knowledge. And forgive me, I know my internet's a little slow here, so I might be cutting in and out. Here's what she says. She says, the many differences between native science and Western science starts with intention. She says, the common purpose that drives modern Western science is to understand nature in order to better control, some would say commodify, nature. By contrast, in native science, the fundamental intent is to become more human and to learn how to live in harmony with nature and with one another. Native scientists may invent technologies to make life easier, but these are always secondary to human development. I just wanted to read that because, it's one thing that's been on my mind the last week or so is here at XChange, we've always believed in the idea that there is sacred ancient wisdom that we need to combine with our modern sciences to bring the best out in groups of people. And I think what's being accelerated right now is an invitation for a lot of people to connect to that. So thanks for letting me read that, Julie.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. I'm curious just what the thoughts are about what the wisdom is right now from Mother Nature. I've been feeling just on an intuitive level, you don't even have to be on an intuitive level. It's kind of like clear. I mean, you look at the pictures of where commerce and driving has stopped. And, you know, I think it was the picture in China where you can see just almost no pollution after such a short period of time. I'm just curious, like, what are you getting? What is everyone getting? What wisdom are you getting from Mother Earth right now? What are you learning?
Well, somebody said this yesterday in a call that we led, and I thought it was a wonderful expression. It was a group of entrepreneurs, and they were asking a similar question. And what they acknowledged is, if you look around the world, there's kind of one yearning that everyone in the world has that 2 weeks ago, you didn't have this. You didn't have this unified sense of purpose. I mean, how interesting. This is the first time, I think, in my lifetime, the whole world has one purpose. And if you had to search for different words, I mean, the word that rises to the top is heal, right? Yeah. Like, literally, we're looking for collective healing. And you could say that's true, not just of people healing from coronavirus or COVID-19, but, you know, is it an expression of the planet's natural evolution and aiming to heal? Maybe. And how many people will this inspire them? Because I believe in this idea. Julie, you actually mentioned this in your last book. You quoted the concept called mirror flourishing. And I think one thing that becomes possible, in our mentors, Dr. David Cooperrider and Ron Fry, who 30 plus years ago created a methodology known as appreciative inquiry. And one of the things that they have discovered in their decades of work in leading groups to discover their highest potential is that whenever a group of people aims for some noble purpose outside of themselves, that it is nearly impossible for those same people to not see within themselves a similar purpose. And they call it mirror flourishing as a shout out to the mirror neuron in the brain, right? It's like when my kids watch a ninja movie, what do they all want to be in that moment? They all want to be ninjas, right? Well, when the whole world is yearning for healing, even if the way we're talking about it is physical well-being, I think what's really interesting is that we can't help it. We can't avoid it, that we're all simultaneously asking, how do we heal within, and probably in all ways. So that's just one guess at what might be happening right now.
So beautiful. Yeah, I'm curious, you and I were talking earlier about love, what you were saying, this focus that we are, for the first time on a global level, all intention and attention is going towards healing, towards this one purpose. And I know you have a lot of experience with system thinking and how to handle bigger problems, and just curious to tap into the wisdom you've learned from those experts around, you know, the science of a system and how to really work through that one problem from that system thinking. Research, what you know, your thoughts.
Yeah, for me, 9 years ago was the first time I was really formally introduced to the concept of systems thinking, when I was going through an educational experience, and I was handed a book called The Fifth Discipline, written by Peter Senge. And I mean, in some arguments, the whole book is about systems thinking, and he's kind of a leading thought teacher out of MIT on the concept of a system. And that sent me down a path for 9 years where probably 90% of all the books I read are related to living systems or systems. And most of my friends just make fun of me for it. But a week ago, they all called me and said, okay, what does this actually mean? Because interesting trivia, the very best training videos that exist on YouTube, if you want to learn about systems thinking, guess who produced them? The CDC. We are in the middle of a systemic crisis in the most pure sense there possibly is. So the fascinating thing about studying systems is, for me at least, it doesn't put me in a place where I know what's going to happen. Systems thinking is actually about realizing there is not a truth the way that we want there to be a truth. Like, when can we all go outside again? Like, systems thinking is really the recognition that when you look at the interconnectedness of any system, and in this case, human beings and civilization represent a living system, there are certain possibilities and potentials. And here's one that I think we're all realizing, even if we weren't using this vocabulary. There's a couple ways, there's not very many, there's a couple ways for any system to evolve to a higher, more complex order. And the most common way is chaos, crisis. I mean, think of, a long time ago, I was in the health and wellness industry, and the data it's unequivocating. Like, there's way more people that start going to the gym when they nearly die or their doctor says they're going to. More people will take action when they realize how painful it is if they don't. That's just happening on a collective level right now. So from a systems perspective, scientifically you'd call this chaos, and we're now resting on the edge of chaos. And it's exciting because what could come out of this, on one hand, could probably be a lot more painful than any of us realize right now. But on the other hand, could actually lead to a certain acceleration of a large scale evolution that could be what a lot of people were hoping for. But I'm hoping that any of us who are wanting the latter are willing to accept that might not show up in our own lifetime, because that takes a whole set of qualities that, we're all hoping we can go outside in 2 weeks. We need a whole new type of leader right now who's willing to step back and say, who do I choose to be? And how do I choose to be for others? Even if I'm not going to see the benefits or get the conveniences or luxuries that were here 2 weeks ago, even in my lifetime. I think we kind of have to prepare for that kind of extreme. So anyways, there you go.
Like, there's so many ways that we could take that, like, kind of, I'm seeing the two roads, the two choices. And I think one of the reasons that I'm so grateful we're doing this here, and for everyone listening and all of you, it's like, we matter, all of the way you're being, the way I'm being, we are to kind of go into the land of quantum and spirit. Like, we have the ability to magnetize how we're being. So really choosing to be somebody that that sees a future, that the latter choice, I would go for that one, Jon. And choosing to live in that way can make a big difference. What's been coming to my mind is this idea of being infectious in a positive way, like being infectious in how we're being as human, in our humanity and our love and our compassion. We can take those, we did a meditation this morning, some of you were with me, and just beam that out to the world. We have no idea how that actually does make an impact. There's a lot we can do.
Yeah. I'm glad that you keep coming back to who we are being, because, I'm a part of different groups, a couple groups with a number of men and women who are investors and who have a lot of financial stake in what happens right now. I was on a call this morning with one of these groups, and they're all looking at it through a lot of different lenses. Like, economically, this could go one of several different ways, and it could go in a direction where it takes years to recover. Like, that's a very rational possibility right now. What a lot of us, even myself, don't know how to comprehend is, what does that actually mean? And what a lot of us, I'm 37, or am I 38? Laura, I forget. I don't actually remember how old I am. I think I'm 400.
You're 39.
I'm 30. No, I can't remember. But most people my age, we can't comprehend what it would actually mean to go into a real recession, or even worse. We don't know what it means. We don't get it. I've been studying it to try and prepare for it. And here's why I think that's okay, because even if things come out miraculously, how much better off are we if we're now prepared to protect that? What does that do to who we are being, right? But if it does go that direction, all we're going to have left is who we are being, right? Because so many luxuries that we have today, and the funny thing is, when I say luxury, some of you are thinking the ability to go on a vacation. No. The ability to go outside. There's this assumption that ability is going to come back in a week or two. It might, and it might not. So who we are being is all we have left. And I'm a big fan of Dana Zohar, who wrote about spiritual intelligence years ago. And she's a great spiritual executive coach out of Europe. And one of the things that she talks about is that there is a thing called spiritual intelligence, and it's kind of a third intelligence that rests right on top of not only our IQ, which is our ability to understand information, our EQ, it's our ability to self-regulate emotion and relate with others, but SQ is our ability to connect to that place within where there's a deeper meaning. It's that place where we actually figure out what our values are. It's that place that we connect to where we can actually participate in our evolution. IQ and EQ don't necessarily go in those directions. And Dana Zohar believes we are all, as human beings, born with tremendously high potential to live with this spiritual intelligence. We do not all tap into it, though. Same way collective intelligence is here on this Zoom, but it's not guaranteed we tap into it until we start doing certain things with the conversations like we did earlier. Same is true with spiritual intelligence. And one of the drivers for spiritual intelligence, one is being around other people who are driven by certain motivations, which being in a community like yours, Julie, that's one of the solutions. One of the other drivers is a crisis. And in that crisis, how we choose to cooperate and organize. A lot of people will try and make it through a crisis in isolation, literally and figuratively. And that's not what nature recommends. Cooperation is actually a vehicle for us to collectively raise to a higher order. So a lot of it comes down to what questions do we ask, right? So 20 minutes ago, we asked, what are we learning? How are we evolving? Because in the moment we ask that question, it actually accelerates the very thing we ask about, right? Because as soon as I had to articulate it and then say it to another person, the learning actually gets solidified, right? How are you changing right now in positive ways? As soon as I think, write it down, say it, it actually accelerates that actual change. So it's practices like that and questions like that I think we've got to lean into right now.
I think that's the perfect segue, because I know one of the things, if you're in the community with me, like it's so important, I believe, for us to learn to trust what you're talking about, spiritual intelligence. Just love this concept and fully embrace it, and learning to trust that and tap into it. It's and part of me thinks one of the gifts of what's happening right now is if you choose to use this time to go within and to tune into your inner wisdom, to your inner spiritual connection, you're going to come out, connected in a higher level than ever before. And I believe that's part of the calling. That's part of the calling right now for us as human beings, if we choose to take it. And the more you and I do that, the more we all do that, the more we become connected to something greater than ourselves and connected to one another. And we can, so I'd love to, I think we have a little time. Are you guys still good with timing to hang in? And if not, just hop on off. Would love to kind of ask that question around your own inner wisdom. We all have, whether you call it intuition, inner wisdom, your higher self, asking the question, what is the inner wisdom you're getting for yourself as Jon's speaking, as you're listening to others, just from this conversation? What is that inner wisdom that is coming to the surface for you? What's coming through your intuition right now through this conversation? And I was thinking, I think we could do this in about 8 minutes.
We could do anything in 8 minutes.
Do anything in 8 minutes. You guys cool for one more round of rooms?
Yeah.
Is everyone clear on the question?
Share that question again. And if all of you have a pen and you want to reflect on this question as Julie repeats it, that'd be great.
I don't know if you have music. That's okay.
Here it comes. It's on its way.
So the question is, what is your inner wisdom? What is your intuition telling you right now? What are you getting from this conversation that is coming through your inner wisdom? You want to add to that, Jon?
No, it's great. Yeah. And we're speaking to our live in studio Zoom audience. And the question we're asking you is, as you've been a part of this conversation in person this morning, what is your inner wisdom whispering to you? And just write down anything that comes up. It could be a word, a phrase, a picture, an image. A color. Yeah. A feeling, anything you want. All right, here's what's going to happen. I need host or co-host abilities here to move people into groups.
I can do it from here. Okay.
Okay, great. So, Julie, I'd set them up to go into groups of 3.
Yep.
And here's everyone's instructions. In your groups of 3, just take no more than 30 seconds for each person to just share out loud what came up. And then as a group, you might see if there's any common themes or patterns. And we'll bring you back in 5 minutes. So in just a second here, if you're here in the live audience, you'll see a button you could push to go join a breakout group. You'll be in there with 2 or 3 other incredible, beautiful souls. And I will not join breakout group 4. It invited me. So there we go. Whoever's in group.
So, one of the things we've been doing is asking these questions that are really change makers. And I was wondering if you could share some of the questions for those listening in. What are some questions that we can ask ourselves that make a difference? Right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we began this call with a really interesting one, right? Like, what am I learning? How am I evolving right now? And I think there's also, Julie, some really practical questions, especially in the face of a crisis. They're practical questions that bring out deep wisdom. You think about in a time where people are being collectively moved into widespread scarcity, we've got to counter that with questions like, how do we unlock our resourcefulness, right? At a time when people are really captivated by problems, we've got to ask ourselves, what are the solutions? People are isolated and lonely. How do we create experiences of belonging and connection? And what we're doing today, frankly, is like the answer. I mean, there's not very many others when you can't go outside. When people are feeling uncertainty, they get paralyzed around taking action. Some people do. And when that happens, we've got to ask, what can I do? How can I accelerate me implementing and learning from that, right? And I think an even deeper question is when we get caught up in a place of fear, which is good, it's normal, it's okay. But if we dwell in that, or we get stuck in that, or it even spirals down to like fearing for survival, we got to, in those moments, ask ourselves, what deeper meaning could I find in this? Or what noble purpose could I reconnect myself to? Because whatever was important to me before, that didn't go away. Maybe I can actually reinvigorate a sense of purpose around what I do. So those are some examples. And by the way, can I tell people about a webinar that we're doing right now?
Yeah. Oh my God, please.
Yeah, we have a webinar that we're starting to run. We're going to run it every other day until we don't run it anymore. And it's going to share with people how to design questions and choreograph conversations. That's our words for it. To facilitate powerful group experiences using Zoom right now. And if you're an event planner or an organizational leader, or you've got a whole bunch of customers and you're instead of being afraid you're going to lose them, what if you could actually accelerate the value that you create by bringing them together on platforms like this? And there's conversations that we're facilitating every day for groups where they're crowdsourcing innovative solutions to how they can solve their own problems or how they can help each other. We've got one customer that's bringing on a group of their customers, and they're literally going to have an open marketplace on the Zoom. People are going to say, here's what I need help with. And someone will say, I can help you with that. And then they'll go meet outside that Zoom room. So there's a ton of ways to create value, to move in-person events and trainings and mastermind retreats online, to lead different types of groups and communities. And if someone wants to learn about that from us, they could go to XChangeApproach.com. XChangeApproach.com. And we're doing webinars every couple of days right now where we just teach as many of these questions as we can, and we'll help as many people as we can. And actually, Julie, aren't you launching like any minute your School of Sacredology?
Yay! So this is totally like hot off the press, brand new. I haven't even told a few people this morning, but it's funny when you're talking about Dana Zohar's book, Spiritual Intelligence, and having that place to really connect on that level. I had already been feeling the need to do this before. And so as many of us entrepreneurs, all those who are out there entrepreneurial, I've been putting this together like right now. I'm going to be launching a spiritual community, a collective called Sacredology, School of Sacredology. It's going to be an in-depth interactive study that we're going to engage in together on unlocking your sacred inner wisdom and really understanding how the same letters for scared and sacred, those are the same letters. So we're going to really look at what does it mean to be scared and what does it mean to then transform that into sacred. So turning that fear into faith. I'm going to put a quick link if anyone is interested, if you're listening. I am going to be starting it in April and would just love to have you in it. It's going to be a really sacred, very in-depth spiritual community where we're interacting and engaging just like this, where it's about you untapping into your intuition and higher wisdom.
That's awesome. So, and what is the URL again?
It's juliereisler.com/School of Sacredology. And I am starting with a really low founding members price. I wanted to make this accessible to everybody. We're also doing 2 live calls a week for April, and I'm going to do weekly morning meditations every day in the private Facebook group, and then a whole lot more. It's going to be really,
that's awesome.
Really, hopefully, very empowering.
That's awesome. Really, really cool. Hey, everybody just came back. In a sentence or less, anybody like to share what came up for them in reflecting on what their intuitive whisper is sharing with them? So just real tight, in a sentence or less, who'd like to share? You're welcome to, you can unmute yourselves if you want. Anything at all that came up. Vani, go ahead. Yeah.
I'll share what came up from our group. So in one sentence, if I could put it.
Well, Vani, now that I see it's you definitely take 2. Definitely take 2.
Really? Okay.
You're Canadian, you're going to be a little more efficient than us anyways. So.
Sweet. Okay. What I got from my group and what came up was the time is now for intentional being and doing from that place.
Beautiful.
One sentence, John.
That was well done.
Beautiful.
That's grammatically correct too. That's awesome. Who'd like to go next?
I think it's now the time for us to step up and level up to be our highest selves.
Awesome, Blair. Yeah, that's awesome. Who's next?
I would say for ours was flexibility and adaptability.
Yeah. That's awesome. 1 or 2 more? Yeah, Anna, please.
For me and Pretty, I think it was completely opposite, but for the both of us was going out the comfort zone. Because for me, it was letting go and trust. I'm usually very active, and it was the opposite. And for Pretty was the other way around, being strong and courageous when she's not usually in this way. And so it's, the overall is going out your comfort zone.
Awesome. That's great. Maybe one more?
Jenna, did you want to share? I know you were going to share before. Jenna's in our group and shares beautiful wisdom.
Hold on, Jenna. I don't know why. There you go. There we go.
I think we're muting and unmuting at the same time. I think that's what's happening. So one theme that came up in our group is really connecting with our divine will and why we are here. And this is sort of in the moment, just our blueprint to really connect with that now that the outside noise is settling, to feel into that space, like, what are we really here for individually and collectively? And creating pathways to manifest that in sustainable ways of living. So for me, it's like creating my permaculture retreat healing center with music. And that's like my intention right now moving forward.
Awesome, Jenna. Really, really cool. Thanks for sharing that. Well, Julie, how do we want to land this plane?
I just, first of all, I am like full of goosebumps, and that's my non-scientific indication of just connection. I actually wanted to just, in typical form, if you've done anything with me, I love doing little card readings, just sending us all off with a message. I just want to first say thank you to all of you for sharing your wisdom, Jon, for just taking us on a deep spiritual voyage and giving so much value and goodness. I'm so grateful to you and the XChange community, family, methodology, and just everybody being here.
So welcome. It was a blast.
Just so fun. You guys, thank you for hanging. I know this is a little bit longer, and those listening, I'm gonna pull a card. And actually, what I'm going to do, I was thinking if there's a way we could all pull the card together, but I don't know how to do that on Zoom yet. Let's see. I think that'll be next time. I'm going to figure this out for April. All right. I'm going to pick 2. These are the 2. We'll see what we got. Again, echoing what Jenna had just said, really tapping into that infinite love, that infinite intelligence that connects us all. What I'm feeling is this web of, call it the divine matrix. Whatever you call it, I'm feeling it. I'm so honored to be here with you. So the first card is letting go. That's such a beautiful card. I think that was actually what was just said with flexibility and adaptability. So I'll just read the declaration, which is, I allow anything that doesn't serve my highest good to be released, and I let go of words, thoughts, and beliefs that aren't loving. So you might want to take a note, just some notes. What does that mean to you? And would love for you to connect with us in the Facebook community after. What does that really mean? What does that look like? How are you letting go? Thoughts, beliefs, stories, actions, habits, things that don't serve. And then last one, oh, this is great. This is perfect for today. The last one is self-expression. I have come to this world to become the greatest expression of my truest self. I allow myself to be fully self-expressed and to share my sacred voice, gifts, skills, and talents with the world. And I would add just what we were talking about earlier, Jon. It's actually, it's not just, it's a gift that it's almost like if you don't share and don't self-express, you're kind of, you're taking away from what we can learn and how we can share with you and connect with you. So it's almost like really being of service right now to be letting go and then to be self-expressed, to share your voice and your talents and your gifts. So that's what I'm getting. Any thoughts, any intuition, Jon, from you?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well,
we actually, just appreciation to our live audience for giving up of your time to be here with us this morning. And if you're listening to this later on, thank you for your time as well. And hope everyone can be safe and be well.
As always, so much love, you guys. I think we'll just end with hearts. Hearts beating. Namaste. Love you all.